Hello students, in this video I am going to talk about post-colonialism in a very nutshell and the text called Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. Now post-colonialism, uh, it sounds quite complex to many. So before starting the discussion, I would like to leave the prefix post for a while and try to concentrate on colonialism. Now, the term colonialism comes from the Latin word colonia, which at its very basic level means farmland. Now, Rome was a huge empire. Rome was increasing the territory. So, whenever a new territory was captured, uh, a Roman officer was gifted that place, and it was uh, under his name, and he was in charge of that territory. So, it became his colony. So, this concept of subjugating that place, their people, later turned into the process called colonization. So, even England was a colony of Rome. But the post colonialism or the colonialism that we read or it is talked about is more about the European colonialism, which actually began from say 16th century or 15th century when Portugal, Belgium, these countries were trying to capture new colonies and assert their authority there and to subjugate the people there. England came in uh, 17th century or later 17th century. So there are various factors behind the colonization, and one of the chief factor was capitalism. Now, what is capitalism? To use your capital to uh, to gain more profit. That is capitalism, to put it very simply. Now, in England, there was an industrial revolution. England was producing huge amount of commodities, so England needed uh, different places to sell the surplus products. So they needed these colonies, and they also needed cheap laborers or places to grow the products, the raw materials. So that's why they need needed those colonies. But the question is, how did they capture so many colonies of Asia and Africa? Now it cannot be done by only military strength. So they used a colonial discourse. Now, what is this colonial discourse? Uh, there is a term in literary theory. The term is called hegemony. Now, the term hegemony was first used by Gramsci, a Marxist critic. Hegemony means domination with consent. Now, there are two ways one can dominate others. The first is by threatening somebody, and secondly, by convincing someone that if he obeys my advice, it is beneficial for him, he will be benefited. Then I can dominate him. So, the colonizers used the latter technique. Now they came with a civilizing mission. They came with the approach that they are here to civilize the barbarics, the uncivilized people of India and Africa. So that is the colonial discourse they used or they apply to assert their authority or to dominate. Now, this colonial discourse was also explained by Edward Said in Orientalism. There are three chief uh, post-colonial critics. They are called the Holy Trinity of post-colonialism. One is Edward Said, the second is Gayatri Spivak Chakraborty, and the third is Homi Bhabha. Um, Gayatri Spivak Chakraborty talks about the subalterns. Can the subaltern speak? Her famous essay or article. And Homi Bhabha talks about hybridity of cultures, the colonizers and the colonized cultures. So, what is this post colonialism means? Now, post means after something. So, post colonialism means not after the colonization but after the beginning of colonization. The changes that came in literature, in culture, in architecture, in everything, the changes that came after the colonization process began, it is called post colonialism. Now, if we come to the text Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. Now, Joseph Conrad was born in Ukraine. He was of a Polish origin. In 1886, he took British citizenship, and it is quite amazing to learn that he learned English in his 20s. Before that, he did not know English. So, the first novel of Joseph Conrad was Almayer's Folly. This novel is a landmark novel of post-colonialism, Heart of Darkness, was first published in Blackwood magazine in 1899 in three installments. Then in 1902, it was published as a whole. Now the title is very intriguing and is full of ambiguity. Heart of Darkness. There is a journey. Joseph Conrad was a sailor, was a professional sailor. In 1890 he was commissioned by Belgian government for a journey in Congo. Congo was a country of Africa. So he used that experience in this novel also. Now, Heart of Darkness is a novella. It's a short novel, not a very big novel. So it is called novella. This Heart of Darkness is divided into roughly three parts. First, the journey from Europe to the outer station, then from the outer station to the inner station through central station, and thirdly, back to Europe from inner station. Now, the chief narrator or the main narrator of this novel is Marlowe. This novel, there is the use of framed narrative. There was an unnamed narrator, and then there is Marlowe. So it is called framed narrative, story within a story. So Marlowe is commissioned by the European to find out an agent called Kurtz or Kurtz, some pronounce it. He used to supply huge amount of ivory but he never came back. He was a journalist, a music lover. He went there in Congo and he never returned. But he used to supply huge amount of ivory. So Marlowe was charged to given the charge to find him out and to bring him back. So the story is about a physical journey towards the center of Congo region, but at the same time there's another symbolic journey to reach to the core of colonialism. Now, Joseph Conrad was not against the idea of colonialism. That is evident from the novel. He refers to the Africans as pre, uh, was of ancient man, kind of prehistoric man, and he believed that they need a kind of civilization which they lacked, according to him. But he was critical of the process because he was disillusioned when he went out there. He saw that in the name of progress, the Africans, the people of Congo were exploited, they were tortured. So he was disillusioned very much, to say the least. But he was not against colonization. So this Marlowe, he gathered information from the outer office about Kurds and then went in search of Kurds. And this novel applies a special narrative technique called delayed decoding. Now, during his journey, he Marlowe sees something which he takes for something. Then, after a substantial amount of time, he realizes that it was not what he thought earlier. It was something different, like some men, some figures. He could not assume who they were, or lying down, or look like animals. But later he realized that they were the laborers. Similarly, while he was about to reach Kurt's inner stations, he saw that there are some poles, bamboo poles, and on the bamboo poles are some round, shiny things, which he thought some ornamental things. But later he realized that those are actually the skulls. Those were severed from the native people's body by Kurds. And so, by spreading this terror, by spreading this horror, he used to dominate them. He used to collect, he was able to collect such huge amount of ivory through them. And so, he realized that Kurds, uh, when he got such admiration or such huge praise from the native people who used to worship like demigod, he could not resist it. He could not come back. So this is the truth of colonization. They come with a disguise of civilizing mission, but when they actually uh, get the people to dominate, they could not resist it and they could not return. So Marlowe was able to ultimately bring Kurtz back, but could not get him back to Europe because Kurtz died in the course of his return journey, and he uttered a significant word twice. The word was horror, horror. Now, this has been explained in various ways. So, what is this horror? It is the horror of colonization, that every European or colonizer try to hide from the other people. So the text is about definitely about imperialism, about colonization, and Joseph Conrad was critical of the process, not the idea. So the famous Nigerian writer Chinua Achebe actually criticized Joseph Conrad severely in his essay Image of Africa. So this was the brief discussion about Art of Darkness and Postcolonialism. Hope it will help you. Thank you.